So here you have the primordial atrium with the sinus venosus and its right horn and left horn. So initially the sinus venosus opens into the posterior wall of the primordial atrium, and its right and left horns are of almost the same size. Now what happens is that the right horn is going to increase progressively in size while the left horn becomes smaller and smaller. And this is caused by the development of left to right shunts, because obviously shunting of blood from the left side to the right side of the heart would cause the right horn to enlarge and the left horn to become smaller. So these two left to right shunts are developed by the transformation of the umbilical veins and the vitelline veins, and the second one is caused by the anastomosis between the two anterior cardinal veins. Let me show you. So this is the anastomosis between the two anterior cardinal veins, which shunts blood from the right side, which shunts blood from the left side towards the right side. And this shunt becomes the left brachiocephalic vein. So as the right horn of the sinus venosus increases in size, the sinoatrial orifice, which is basically an opening, it moves to the right and it opens into the primordial right atrium. So over here you can see this is the sinoatrial orifice and it's opening into the wall of the right atrium. So let's talk about the fate of the left horns and the right horn of the sinus venosus. The left horn becomes smaller and smaller, and eventually it becomes the coronary sinus. The right horn becomes incorporated into the wall of the right atrium, and it forms the smooth posterior part of the wall. So on the inside of the right atrium, you have a smooth part and also a rough part. The smooth part is formed by the sinus venosus, and it's incorporated into the wall of the right atrium as the sinus venerum. And the remainder of the internal surface is formed by the primordial atrium itself. Okay, so now let's talk about the sinoatrial valves. So beside the sinoatrial orifice, you have two valves, a right sinoatrial valve and a left sinoatrial valve. And these two valves are also going to give rise to different structures. So from the right sinoatrial valve, its cranial part forms the crista terminalis, and its caudal part forms the valve of the inferior vena cava and the coronary sinus. From the internal structure of the right atrium, you know that the smooth posterior part and the rough anterior part are marked internally by the crista terminalis, and externally this is represented as the sulcus terminalis. Now coming to the left sinoatrial valve, the left sinoatrial valve is going to fuse with the septum secundum, and it's going to get incorporated into the interatrial septum because the septum secundum is going to take part in the formation of the interatrial septum. So let's quickly review what we learned so far. The sinus venosus has two horns, a right horn and a left horn. And the right horn is going to increase in size while the left horn is going to decrease in size. And this is caused by the development of two left to right shunts, one which is developed because of the transformation of the vitelline veins and the umbilical veins, and the second one which is caused by a left to right shunt from between the two anterior cardinal veins. And among the fate of the horns, you have the left horn, which eventually becomes the coronary sinus, and you have the right horn. The right horn becomes incorporated into the wall of the right atrium and forms the smooth posterior part of the wall of the right atrium, while the remaining of the internal wall of the right atrium is formed by the primordial atrium itself, and it forms the rough part. And finally, you can see that the right sinoatrial valve has two parts. Its cranial part is forming the crista terminalis, and its caudal part is forming the valves of the inferior vena cava and the coronary sinus. And the left sinoatrial valve, it fuses with the septum secundum and gets incorporated into the interatrial septum.